This morning we'd like to draw your attention to Micah chapter 6 and verse 8, where Micah declares, "He has showed thee, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? But to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God." The moment I become conscious and acknowledge the existence of God, being forced to that acknowledgement by virtue of my very existence, the miracle of life, and the capacities that I have in understanding and knowing that infinity exists, being able to reason and to think even in abstract ways, becoming aware of God, acknowledging the existence of God, I cannot rest there. If God does exist and I have been created by God, it must be for a purpose. What does God require of me? Having created me with a plan and a purpose, what does God require of me? In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, verse 12. "And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee? But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all of his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and to keep the commandments and the statutes of the Lord." This is what God requires of you. That you're to love the Lord, and to fear the Lord, to walk in his ways, to serve him with all of your heart and soul, and to keep his commandments and statutes. In our text, the prophet said, "He hath shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God." Now, the word require, what does the Lord require? In the Hebrew, there are two different words used in these texts. In Deuteronomy, the word in the Hebrew could be translated ask. What does the Lord ask of you? In Micah, the Hebrew word could be translated demand. What does the Lord demand of you? What are God's requirements? What is he asking of you? He's asking, first of all, that you fear the Lord thy God. We are told that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, the beginning of knowledge. We are told that the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. It is to stand in awe of his presence and of his holiness, and in so doing be conscious of our own sinfulness and unworthiness. Secondly, God asks that you walk in all of his ways, that you obey his commandments and his statutes, that you walk in holiness, that you walk in truth, that you walk in purity. He asks that that you should love him and serve him with all of your heart and soul. He doesn't want a half-hearted relationship with you. He doesn't want you to be in a state of a lukewarm condition. Just a few weeks ago, we spoke of the divided heart, and he doesn't want you loving him or serving him with a divided heart, but with your whole heart and mind and soul. That is what he asks, but what does he demand? He demands that you do justly. That is, he demands that you be fair in all of your judgments. Paul the Apostle said, "Who are you to judge another man's servant? Before his own master, he either stands or falls, and God is able to make him to stand." As I read and understand the New Testament, judgment is something that is sort of taken out of our hands. Jesus said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." For in whatever measure you use in judgment, that's the measure that will be used for you when you are judged. And so God has not really given to us that privilege of judging his servants, another man's servants. Why can't we judge? Because first of all, we don't have all the facts. We do not know the motives of a person's heart. We so often are judging on the basis of hearsay. But someone said that they saw. But someone is not a credible witness. I'm always hearing, well, everyone or someone. And we're so apt to immediately judge on the basis of what someone said. Well, who is someone? What evidence do they have? Usually, well, it was a friend of a cousin of mine, you know. It's always some nebulous kind of a somewhere out there. Several years ago, what was it, about 20 years ago, that they were circulating that picture of Jesus in the clouds. And it was sort of like the picture of Salmon's, the artist Salmon, his understanding or sort of his picture of Christ. It was similar to that. But there he was in the clouds. And I'll bet I heard 20 different stories of how that picture was taken. It was at a funeral. And when the funeral was over, there was just a beautiful, clouds in the sky. So someone just took a snapshot of the clouds, and lo and behold, when it was developed, here's Jesus standing there, arms wide open. Beautiful, at a funeral. Isn't that glorious? But someone else was in an airplane, and they saw a neat cloud formation out there in the airplane. There they snapped the picture. Someone. I tried to trace down who someone was. And usually when the story came to me, well, my aunt sent me this and a friend of hers. And always it was some nebulous person out there who was spreading all of these things. And someone is able to spread so many rumors, oftentimes outright lies. And we begin to judge a person on the basis of what we have heard that someone said. But you see, so often, someone is wrong. And thus we are judging a person wrongly. And that is why God said, don't judge, lest you be judged. You are to do justly. You are to be fair in all of your judgment. And then person is guilty, you're to love mercy. What does the Lord require of you? To do justly. And then if the person is really wrong, love mercy. Don't try to get your pound of flesh. You're to be kind, you're to be forgiving, you're to be merciful. The scripture says, be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. And then in the prayer, he said that we should pray, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. What does God require of you? That you love mercy. Not just be merciful, but to love mercy. And then God requires that you walk humbly with your God. The man who is proud is the man who has never had a true encounter with God. When Isaiah saw a vision of God, his response is, woe is me. When Daniel had a vision of God, he declared, my beauty was turned into corruption. No man can have a true encounter with God and come away from it with a feeling of pride or greatness. For I stand in his presence, of his awesome holiness, of his glorious majesty, of his infinite power. Suddenly I become aware of how unrighteous, unholy, how sinful I am in the light of his holiness. These are the things that God requires, or as the prophet said, God demands of you. That you do justly, that you love mercy, and that you walk humbly with thy God. You say, I've not lived up to those requirements. Can't we go to the New Testament? Isn't that the law? Isn't that the Old Testament? I mean, they're sort of tough. Let's go. I love New Testament is love and mercy and grace. I love the New. Let's go to the New Testament. What does the New Testament say that God requires of me? I can't really live up to that Old Testament law stuff. All right, let's go to the New Testament. Let's go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. As Jesus is coming to the end of chapter 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, he said, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. So try that one. You say you want to live by the New Testament standards? Well, good luck. But you're going to need a lot more than luck. In Matthew 22:37, Jesus said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And as I read these commandments of Jesus, I immediately become conscious of my sin. I have missed the mark. I haven't even come close to the mark. Mine is not a near miss. So many people say, well,